Welcome to our webinar on Ozcode 2.0, Back to the Future. First of all,
my name is Omer Raviv. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Ozcode.
And I'm Dror helper. I'm the evangelist in Ozcode, a big believer in clean code and test-driven development. Now, for those of you who haven't heard about Ozcode, and I guess that's none of you, it's a debugging aid targeted at Visual Studio. Our main objective was to create a better debugging experience, find bugs faster, easier, help you find debugging features that actually exist inside Visual Studio, and add more debugging features that don't exist in Visual Studio. If you want a list, not full list, but most of the features, you can find them on our website. We are not going to talk about all of them today, just the new ones. And before we start, I want to talk about the next webinar, where we're going to show 2 new features in a new version that is going to come out in a few weeks' time, 2.1. It's going to be a free app version. Okay, I'll try to get closer to the mic. Thank you, Martin. And 2.1 is going to be a free upgrade. Tell you the truth, 2.0 was a free upgrade as well, because we want all our customers to get these features, basically. And the exciting thing about those 2 features, especially for me, they are targeted specifically at unit testing, as well as debug. And we'll talk about that next time. Today, we're going to talk about the new features, or relatively new features of 2.0, specifically predict, which enable us to see the future, magic lands that help us understand why we got to a certain point during debugging. That way we don't need to restart debugging all the time. And a few nifty tricks with breakpoints. And later on, Omer will show us the new Linq debugging thing he's been working on.
Before we start, I'll explain the rationale behind Ozcode. The rationale behind Ozcode is that while you're debugging, you're essentially wasting your time and your organization's time. Because every single minute that you spend using the debugger is basically a minute that you squandered away. You weren't writing a new feature. You weren't creating a better, higher quality code by refactoring your existing code base. You were just fixing something that really shouldn't have been there in the first place. So our objective with Ozcode is to make sure that you spend as little time in the debugger as possible so that you can spend more time focusing on creating high quality code and crafting cool new features. And there's a lot of time wasted in the debugger when you think about it. And there's all these different reasons why we waste so much time while we're using the debugger. One of those those problems is that we keep restarting the debugger over and over. Each time we make a code change, or each time we have that experience of stepping a bit too far in the debugger, and then, oh man, I missed it. I have to restart the whole thing just to get to the point where I was at. That manual stepping through your code line by line, trying to find that needle in a haystack of where the bug is hiding gets very, very tricky and very, very time consuming, and also very, very frustrating. And that's what we're here to try and solve. So without further ado, we'll step right into the demos and show you the cool new features in Ozcode version 2.0. And we'll start by explaining the predict functionality. So I'll just go ahead and step into the predict demo. And by the way, all of these demos that we're showing you today are all up on GitHub, so you can check them all out. And there are cool walkthroughs that you can step along and see. So there are a couple of different things you will notice here. I'm stepping into this code, into this for each loop. And in version 2.0, we introduced the concept of a heads-up display for the debugger. So one of the things you'll notice immediately is we get these annotations over the for each loop, showing us the current item in the for each loop. And one of the nicest features of Ozcode is we can go ahead and customize the way everything looks. So when I'm looking at this collection of customers, because nobody bothered to implement toString on the customer class, I get this display, which is not very useful. So I'll go ahead and I'll choose the ID, and let's say the first name of the customer, and they'll bubble up to the top. Basically, what I've done is I've told Ozcode from this moment on, I want you to forever and ever remember that ID and first name are the fields or properties that are important to me, and that's what it will always show me. And you'll notice that the heads-up display was also updated. Over here, we can see predict at work. So the yellow line in the debugger, which is the line that we're about to step through as soon as I hit F10, is this switch statement over here. And Ozcode is smart enough to tell me that, okay, I'm going to land here in this case clause, and so it's de-emphasizing the dead code path. So now as I step through my code, in the next iteration, we'll see that the heads-up display is updated. This time I'm going to step into the this case clause because the current gender is male. So one of the nicest things in predict is that it can tell me what's about to happen in an if statement. Rather than having to take each one of these sub-expressions and put it into the quick watch window, say, okay, this guy was false, the other guy, let's see what this guy was, okay, this guy is also false, and then try and do all the Boolean logic in my head, I'll just hit F10, and immediately Ozcode tells me that this entire if statement is returning true. So it's de-emphasizing the else clause. And we can immediately see that the first three sub-expressions here are false. The last one was true. If I want to drill in here, I can click these glasses, and then I can use either the keyboard or the mouse to hover over this graph. And I can use the arrow keys as well in my keyboard, if I'm more of a keyboard person. And we're seeing a drill down into everything that happens. So here, for example, this sub-expression returned false because we were comparing the string US to the string France. And again, if I want to and right here I'm looking at an address. If I want to change the way the address looks, I can just go ahead and change that with the stars feature. I'll say I don't care about the city, show me the zip code. And the heads-up display is immediately updated. I can also even see what the get yearly earnings method here is about to return before we even executed the method. And why is all of this important? Well, the reason it's important is because this predict functionality is incredibly useful when I'm trying to use edit and continue. And edit and continue is, of course, the functionality which is greatly improved in Visual Studio 2015, where I can actually make changes to my code while I'm debugging it. And as soon as I hit F10 or F5, Visual Studio will magically compile the differences and inject them into my running process. In previous versions of Visual Studio, we had all these annoying limitations, like you couldn't do edit and continue if you're debugging an async method, or if your method had any sort of lambda expression in it, or if you were doing 64-bit debugging. And in Visual Studio 2015, the Roslyn and the debugger teams at Microsoft did an excellent job of just doing away with all of those limitations, and now edit and continue has become really a marvel to work with. So let's check this out. So over here, I was actually expecting this if statement to return true, but it's returning false. So Ozcode is giving me this visualization, which is telling me the first part is false. That's why it's in red. And because I have an AND operator over here, the second part is in strike through because we had a short circuit evaluation. We didn't even get to that part. So I can already see my stupid little mistake here, which I misspelled the word MasterCard, which is just typical of me, really. So as soon as I do that, as soon as I fix this, I get instant feedback on the changes that I made. And now the second problem is I probably wanted this to be a not equal to null instead of an equal to null. And as soon as I do that, again, instant feedback on every change that I make. So that's the whole point of predict. And the important thing to realize here is that Ozcode is not actually rerunning your code while you're debugging it. Rather, it's just emulating your code. So I'm going to show you a nice little magic trick to explain that better. For that, I have this console application here. I'm up to console application 111.9, which just show you that this is a brand new computer that I recently reformatted. So all of my achievements were done away with. But anyways, I'm going to type out this tiny program, which is going to print out the alphabet. So I'll say static char letter equals A. And then I'm going to have this tiny method, which is going to be called next, which is just going to return the next letter each time. So next is definitely a method that has side effects, right? It changes the state of the program when we run it. I'll now create this tiny string, which I'll call the alphabet. And I will just say the alphabet is, and then I'll do next plus next plus next. And now when I run this program, you'll notice something very interesting. Ozcode is predicting what's about to happen inside of the yellow line. So it's telling me I'm about to get the value of the alphabet is ABC. If I open up the glasses, I can see it's telling me the first call will return A, the second will return B, and then the last one will return C as expected. But if you'll notice, when I hover over the alphabet, I can see that its value is still null. And if I hover over a letter, I can still see that the value is still A. So Ozcode didn't go ahead and rerun the next method 3 times, because that actually would have been pretty horrible. Ozcode would have been trashing the state of my program just to show me a nice visualization. So no, actually what Ozcode is doing here is simulating, using a technique called IL interpretation, what's about to happen inside of this method. And the nice thing here is that now I can go ahead and change this on the fly. Like, let's say I decide I want to add a separator here, and I want a separator here as well. So I'll just add those. And now we can see that the yellow line of the debugger has sort of turned into a REPL. I can make changes on the fly and see what effect they have. Another nice thing here is that I can actually show you how Ozcode handles null reference exceptions, and I can actually fix those stupid little null reference exceptions that we all make very, very quickly. To show you that, I'm going to do a nice thing here, and I'm just going to change the value of customer. For those of you who aren't familiar, you can actually change the values of variables that you look at while you're debugging. And that can be a very, very nice thing for just experimenting, while you're debugging, getting your program to the state that you want so that you can debug it more efficiently. So right now I want to show you the null reference exception demo. So I'll change the value of customer to null. And this is the way Ozcode's predictive analysis works with exception. So Ozcode is predicting that a null reference exception is about to occur. It's highlighting the thing that's null in red, which is very useful. And now I can actually fix this in a couple of different ways. Either I can just go ahead and add the null check over here, and then we'll see, okay, this time around customer is not equal to null, so this is false, and we avoided the null reference exception. Or I can just use the fancy schmancy new Elvis operator, that is the null propagating operator. So that will be just adding a question mark here. And this is a cool new feature that was added in C# version 6.0, where basically what it's doing is saying, okay, value of customer is null, so we didn't even evaluate this part of the expression. And null in Chicago is not the same thing, and that's why this entire thing returned false. So that's the power of predict. See what your code is doing before it actually does it, so that you can change it on the fly without it didn't continue and get instant feedback. And so now we'll move on to showing you Magic Glance, which is how you can actually go ahead and look into the past rather than the future. So I'll let Dror here take it away.
Hey, hello. So basically, one of the problems during debug is once we get to a certain point, we're not really sure how the hell we got there. And then what we need to do usually is restart the debugging session, which could be quite costly thing to do. And that's why we have Magic Glance. We want to know how the hell we got there. And if you look here in this method, once I start running, let's turn this guy off. Once I start running, a set of glasses will appear near every line I run. That's Ozcode saving the results to what I just did. And when I get here to this particular number, I want to know how I got to this number. All I need to do is either turn them on using the glasses over here, or the key binding, which is Alt, Shift, and Q. And now I can see on all the lines exactly what happened. Don't worry, you don't need to remember the key binding, since in Ozcode we added this menu items to see the keyboard shortcuts. And there are not a lot of them. And once you get the hang of them, it's very easy to use. Basically, in the Magic Glance mode, I can either turn it on or off using Alt, Shift, and Q. or traverse those specific lines using Alt and a number. For example, in this case, let's see Alt and 5 to see how we got to the first call. Well, is eligible for discount was false, so I got the regular price. And I didn't call get discount price. And the same goes for every other line. Something interesting here is that I haven't returned the method yet, but already Ozcode knows to tell me exactly what will be the return value as well. And I can open it and see how I got there. I got this customer, and this is the result of this method, the result of that method, and together they get this value back. Now, other than that, I can use Alt and go from with arrow up and arrow down between all those and understand the exact calculation that caused this result.
And now I'll address a question, which is how does this all work with native code? So that's actually the limitation here, which is very important to understand. Because as I mentioned before, predict, which we're seeing here on the last line, the return statement, is actually showing me what's about to happen. It's running IL interpretation to actually simulate executing the get extra freebies cost method here, and it's showing me what the get extra freebies cost method is about to return. So let's go ahead and see where the limitations are. Let's say the get extra freebies cost method here is actually something that has some observable side effects to the outside world, like it talks to some native code, it goes off into the database and changes something, or it goes into the network and talks to somebody. So for now, I'll just simulate that by adding a console.writeLine over here, and I'll say calculating, and let's go back and see how that looks. So when I do that, what I get over here is I'll get Ozcode giving me partial results. So it's showing me what the value of retail gift price is, but it's giving me this question mark telling me that this is showing me predictive results that are partial. As soon as I open this guy up, I can decide what option I want to take. So if I click this refresh button, that will be essentially telling Ozcode, okay, Ozcode, trust me on this one. You can go ahead and actually evaluate the get extra freebies cost method because I know that it has no side effects. I can even say always evaluate get extra freebies cost without asking me if I want to. So as soon as I hit this button, now it's showing me the value of get extra freebies cost is returning. Another thing I could do here instead is when I'm in this situation, instead of opening this up, I can just hit F10. As soon as I do step over, Ozcode will be able to show me the value that get extra freebies cost returned. But the all-important thing to realize is that Ozcode didn't evaluate the get extra freebies cost method twice. Rather, it just captured the value that the method returned when I hit F10. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears here and talk about breakpoints. Yeah. Breakpoints are the bread and butter of debugging, and there's a lot of really cool, more advanced breakpoints you could do. So I'll let Dror here explain more.
Yeah. So basically, there's a little known or unknown feature, depending on who you ask, which is called the conditional breakpoints. I know at least a few of you have used them. And conditional breakpoints enable me to put some condition in which a breakpoint will actually work, and in other cases just go over it. It's a very needed feature that, in my experience, many developers don't use. They don't use them because sometimes they're not aware there's actually a conditional breakpoint. You need to create a breakpoint and then add the condition, and most developers just skip over it. And B, it's not that easy. It got better in 2015 Visual Studio, but we wanted to make it even better. And so we wanted a conditional breakpoint to be as trivial and as easy as it can possibly be. So in this case, here we go. I want to create a conditional breakpoint to stop on a specific customer because I know that that customer has a problem. Customer name being Robert Williams. Why? That was what we chose. In order to add a conditional breakpoint using Ozcode, all you have to do is open the customer, any customer, in the point in which you want to create that conditional breakpoint. And you don't need to have a breakpoint beforehand. I just needed it to stop in the right place for this demo. But other than that, I just need to get there. And here I use the magic wand and just use add conditional breakpoint. Now, once I do that, I automatically get a conditional breakpoint with the first name and the exact value it's right now. So I'll change that to Robert. Okay. And let's do that the right way. Here we go. And I also want to add its surname. So I can do it either by using customer dot and get, I can just write it right here, or the other way around, which is open customer. And once I am in this conditional breakpoint mode, I get this little red dot here, which I can use to add more information to that conditional breakpoint. In this case, I'll just add customer surname and change it to the value I want. So, yeah. Right now it's false, but that's okay. That's not where I want to stop. And I'll do OK and let it run until it stops for that customer. And I see that there's a problem because check with payment gateway should have returned true. Digging in, and I skipped a bunch of customers, I think at least 21 of them, to get here. Now, if I go in, I can see why. Basically using the predict feature. I don't need to run over this line, see that it fails, and then try to run it again to understand what's the problem. I just see that I'm going to have a problem really soon. So the problem being that Robert uses American Express, and basically I don't support American Express at the moment. So I have one angry customer on my hands, but I might have more of them. And I want to find out if there are other customers that have the same problem. So in this case, I can dig into the CC type. Now, there's a feature, Ozcode had it for a million years, as far as I'm concerned, called show all instances of a specific type. But there's also this little thing here that we haven't gotten around to properly document yet, which is show the property for the instances in the memory right now. So I can use that and show all the values of the CC type of all the instances of customers in my memory at the moment. And as you can see, there are a lot of them, MasterCard, Visa, and I can scroll down. I can use search, or I can filter it to find out exactly who have problem with my specific payment gateways. All I need to do is CC type, okay. If it's not Visa, and now this is this feature has been here forever, right? And it's not a new one, but it's very useful. So we like to show it again. Here we go. That's the two supported credit cards. And if I'll press OK, I can see that there's quite a few of those. Some American Express, Diners Club, whatever. And now I know what I need to fix in my program. Now that's the first thing, using conditional breakpoints. Another cool feature that I especially like because I get to work a lot with legacy code. The problem with legacy code is that it once had a very good, very nice design. Unfortunately, those days are past. And since then, many people went away and added features and wrote a bunch of code, and we got to a big train wreck, massive code that we need to understand how it works. And what I usually see from time to time, it happens quite a lot, is that someone accidentally left the door open. You leave some way to change your internal private fields. And if you do that, someone will take advantage of that, and you get the bug. That's the way it works. So basically, the feature that I want to show you called when set break. When set break essentially says, I know that this instance will be set somewhere using a setup property, which is the problem of this specific object, the order info, which get an order and a customer again. And I know that somewhere along the line, someone changed that customer, and I don't know why, and it doesn't happen all the time. And what I want to do is automatically, when the customer is changed, I need a breakpoint there. Now, conditional breakpoint might help me there, but we wanted to make it even easier. So what we wanted to do is to go to you to be able to say, when someone changes customer, please stop. So if I go to this order info again, and I point with the magic wand at the customer instance, now I have the when set here, and I can either use trace or break, but in this case I want to break. And now this dialog open up. Now I want any order info instance, but I don't want it to break every time someone changes the value. I want it to break only when the value changed from something that was already a right valid customer. So not now. And I can use two, let's call it keywords. Value is the value that we're going to change. And this is the object, the order, this guy, the order info object. So I can say, in case that this dot customer is not null, which means that I had the customer and someone changed it along the line. Now, if I run it along, it will stop and says, okay, someone is going to change a customer on this object with this new guy on this customer. And now all I have to do is just go one step back in the stack trace. And I get to see what happened here. And this particular line of code, I like this demo because I saw it so many times. In this particular line of code, someone decided that if I got an order info, and the guy that receiving the order is not the same guy who ordered the actual item, I need to change the customer. The reason I did that is because usually when I want to buy a present to someone, I'll use my address for the billing while another guy for the shipping. And I guess one developer along the line thought it would be a good idea in the middle of execution to change the customer just so the right customer get the shipment. Unfortunately, the next step in this program is someone going and trying to bill someone, and I'm billing the wrong customer because of it. So that was next set get, when set breaks. Now, if you want to see those demos and play along with them or try other features in Ozcode, we created an extensive library of demos, and we're adding it to it all the time. When the new version come out, we'll add more demos, and we're adding at least 3 more demos we want to add to it on GitHub. All you have to do, you go in and you choose the demo you want to see. You can take the source code, clone it, and just press the demo, and you get a nice explanation of what you're supposed to see and how to do it and what to press, and you get to follow it step by step. All the 4 demos we shown today, as well as the new demos and some old one we added as well. So you get to play along with Ozcode and understand the actual capabilities of this product. And now, without further ado, let's see what we've been working on for the version after the next version.
Right. So what I'll be showing to you today is a prototype version of the next version of Ozcode. And what I'm going to show is the Linq debugging functionality that we've been working on. And I'm opening this up to you guys so that you guys can give us all the feedback, all the really, really awesome feedback that you guys keep pouring on us, for which we are forever and ever grateful. We really, really want every new feature that we bake into Ozcode to start from a conversation we have with our customers. So I encourage each and every one of you, if you have thoughts about the demo that I'm about to show, please go into our User Echo website and give us all your feedback on how this feature is supposed to work in your view. What would you improve in the way we have thought about it so far? So to get started with the Linq demo, I'll first explain the rationale. The rationale is that we want to make it super, super easy for anyone who has a very large Linq query to figure out what went wrong with it very, very quickly. Because we find that all too often, using Linq and the more functional, more beautiful, more declarative style of coding is often a sacrifice. You're essentially sacrificing the debuggability of your code, how easy it is to debug your code, for the readability of your code. And we want to change that around. We want it to be so that the more functional, Linq-y style of code you use, the easier it will be to debug. So let's go ahead and look at this problem. So what we have here is this beautiful poem that I wrote, which I will now sing. It goes, 99 little bugs in the code, 99 bugs in the code. Take one down, patch it around, 127 bugs in the code. Repeat until no more bugs. And my Oprah singing got a lot better because I've been doing this demo a lot. And what we have over here is this Linq query that's trying to figure out what is the word that appears most frequently inside of this poem. And again, Ozcode's predictive analysis kicks in, and it tells us that we got it wrong. So we were expecting the word that appears most frequently to be the word bugs, but actually it is the word code. And so if I hit F10 one more time, I'm going to get a debug assertion failure to my face. And I want to figure this guy out. So what I'll do here is I'll go back to the Linq query. And the first thing you'll notice is these number indicators over here tell me how many items came out of each Linq operator. So if we go ahead and count them, we can see that the word code appears 1, 2, 3 times, but the word bugs actually appears 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So that's definitely a bug. It should have been the word bugs. Let's click the indicator over here and see how we can figure this out better. So as soon as I click that button, we can suddenly see all these annotations appear in our code. Initially, it's going on the first item, which is the word 99. So the word 99 came out of a split, and then the where clause returned true. That's why it's in green. Then we group by the word itself, and then did an order by, and then we're expecting to take out the last item. So we have a problem with the word bugs, right? So I can look up the word bugs, and I can see that in the word bugs, it came out over here into the group by, and we thought that there are only 3 items in this group. Another thing you'll notice here is that what I'm seeing in this window is a breakdown of the where clause. So everything that I'm seeing on the left-hand side is what came into the where clause, and what's on the right side is everything that came out of the where clause. So for instance, when I click one of these string empties, we can see that the annotations on the code update, the where clause is red because it returned false, and then we have strike through over the part of the Linq query this particular item never got to. So now I'll use the breadcrumb over here to go to the group by clause. And what we'll see here is all the different groups. Now, I want to figure out why the group that has the word bugs only got 3 items instead of 4. So as I said, on the left-hand side is everything that we put into the group by order. On the right-hand side is all of the groups that came out. So I'll do a search here, and I'll just type in the word bugs. And very quickly, we can see that there's a group with the word bugs that got all these 3 items. But there's another instance of the word bugs that went into an entirely different group. So we can immediately see the bug here. First off, we forgot to tick off that closing parenthesis over here. And secondly, we forgot to take care of the casing, right? We don't care if it's a lowercase or uppercase word bugs. And that's why when we get into the order by, things are all messed up. The word bugs here appears in its own group. And the word bugs over here has 3 items. So the order by put it next to the last item, but not quite the last item, because all of these items all have 3 instances of them. So that's why when I hit F10, again, I get a failure. So let's fix this bug real quick. And again, these number indicators over here are part of Ozcode's predictive analysis. So you'll actually see them update as you edit your code with edit and continue. For instance, right now we're seeing that 79 items are coming out of split. So as soon as I fix the bug and add those missing separators that we left out, we will see, whoops, add the closing parentheses, and ta-da, now we see that there are 81 items, in fact, coming out of split. And secondly, we can see that right now there are 19 items coming out of the group by. So I'll go ahead and take care of that lower casing issue by just adding a select over here, because we don't care if it's a lowercase or uppercase word. So I'll say select I goes to I to lower. And now we can see that there are 18 items coming out of the group by clause. So now let's just visually verify that indeed we have fixed this bug. So let me do that again. Yep, this again. And I'll rerun my code. I'll put a breakpoint right here. And now I'll click this button again. We can scroll down all the way to the uppercase, the word bugs. And now another thing you'll notice is that I can navigate through these breadcrumbs. So whenever I click one of these guys, I'll go to the relevant operator, and I can also navigate through here for the code for these buttons. So I'll go from the source to the where clause, and we saw that the word uppercase bugs, the green V means that it passed through, it wasn't string empty. Later on, we can see that the select clause turned it from an uppercase word bugs to a lowercase the word bugs. We pass on through to the group by, and we see that this time around, all 4 items went into this group, which now this time around had 4 items. We go to the order by, and as we expected, this group is now the last group. And so when we get to the last operator, indeed, it's the only thing that is returned. So when I hit F10, voila, the bug is indeed fixed. So that was a very quick demo of the up-and-coming Linq query analysis functionality that is one of the major things that are going to be in the next version of Ozcode. Again, I encourage each and every one of you to give us your feedback on what type of problems you have when you're debugging Linq queries. Are there problems that this thing doesn't solve? How can we solve your problem? How could this be improved in terms of its functionality or its user experience? We really, really love having those conversations, and we encourage you to speak with us in any medium that you like. You can reach us on our user echo site and on our Twitter account and our Facebook. I'm very, very sorry for everyone on the chat that's asking about this, but we can't commit to an actual release date of the Linq functionality just yet. But what we can say is that we're going to go into a closed beta fairly soon, and then we'll go into a public beta shortly after. So even before the next version of Ozcode comes out, you will be able to play around with the beta bits if you choose to do so. Okay. So that's about everything we had today. I will say thank you very much for coming to our webinar. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and thank you for your feedback. It's really heartwarming seeing what people wrote about Ozcode along the way. Omer hasn't been able to read it, but I'm sure he liked it once he did.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your feedback and all of the support you guys have given us through the years. You guys are the best customer base that one could ask for. And we hope to see you again on our next webinar on version 2.1. So from me, Omer Raviv,
and Dror Helper,
we wish you a happy night or evening or day.
Or morning.
Or morning. Goodbye.